You ever had that weird feeling when you're riding the subway late at night and something just feels off? Like the air is too thick, the lights are too dim, or the station names don't look quite right anymore. That moment when you glance up at the map and realize you don't recognize a single stop, even though you've been taking this same line for years. If you felt this, you're not alone, and you're definitely not crazy. There are places in our cities that exist in the cracks between what should be and what is. Stations that appear on no official map, platforms that lead nowhere, entire subway lines that only run when they shouldn't. Today, I'm going to tell you a story that will make you think twice before getting on the train after midnight. If you're ready to discover the most disturbing secrets about the places beneath our feet, hit that like button right now and subscribe to the channel because this journey is going to change how you see every tunnel, every platform, every closing door for the rest of your life. Marcus Chen had been taking the Red Line home from his night shift at the hospital for 3 years, always the same route, always getting on at Mercy General at 2:47 a.m. and getting off at Parkside 23 minutes later. He knew every bump in the track, every flicker of the fluorescent lights, every advertisement peeling off the curved walls. On this particular Tuesday in October, Marcus stepped onto the platform at Mercy General just like always, his scrubs still smelling faintly of antiseptic. The platform was empty except for one other person, a woman in a long gray coat standing at the far end near the tunnel entrance, perfectly still, facing the wall. Marcus barely registered her presence, used to the strange collection of night owls who populated the subway at this hour. The train burst from the tunnel with its usual rush of stale wind and mechanical thunder, and Marcus glanced once more at the woman, but she was gone, simply not there anymore, and he told himself she must have walked away while he was watching the train, even though some part of him knew that wasn't possible. Marcus got on the third car, like he always did, found his usual spot near the middle doors, and settled into the orange plastic seat. The doors closed with their hydraulic hiss, the three-tone chime sounded, and the train lurched forward into the darkness. The first station after Mercy General should have been Riverside, a trip of about 4 minutes. But as Marcus sat there listening to the rhythmic clacking of the wheels on the tracks, he realized that more than 6 or 7 minutes had passed, and the train hadn't slowed down at all. He looked up at the electronic display that usually showed the next stop, but it was blank, just a black screen. A knot of unease formed in Marcus's stomach. He looked around the car and realized with a start that he was completely alone, which shouldn't have been possible because he distinctly remembered seeing at least 4 other people boarding the train. The car was empty. Absolutely empty, and Marcus could see through the windows in the connecting doors that the cars ahead and behind were empty too. The train continued speeding through the darkness, and Marcus walked to the window to try to see something outside. The tunnel walls were rushing past in a blur of gray concrete, but there were no station lights, no side passages, no emergency exits, just endless tunnel. Marcus pressed his face close to the glass, cupping his hands around his eyes to block the reflection. And that's when he saw them. Figures standing in the darkness outside. Motionless shapes pressed against the tunnel walls, like the woman on the platform had been pressed against the tiles. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds, all facing away from the train, all perfectly still as the train screamed past them. Marcus jerked back from the window, his heart hammering, and he told himself it was just pipes or electrical boxes, anything but what his eyes insisted they were. If you've ever experienced something you couldn't explain, something that made you question your own sanity, I need you to do something right now. I need you to comment below and just write, "I've experienced something I've kept to myself." You don't have to give details if you don't want to, but just knowing that other people have felt what you're feeling, it matters. Your comment might be exactly what someone else needs to see to realize they're not crazy. Marcus stumbled back to his seat, his medical training trying to find a rational explanation. Maybe he was more exhausted than he thought. Maybe the train was just running express through several stations. He pulled out his phone and the time showed 3:11 a.m., which meant he had been on this train for 24 minutes, and the red line only took 23 minutes total, so he should have been home by now. The train began to slow down, finally, and Marcus felt a wave of relief until he saw what was approaching through the windows ahead. The platform that emerged from the darkness was wrong in ways that Marcus's mind struggled to process. It stretched impossibly long in both directions, curving gently until both ends disappeared into a haze of distance. The tiles on the walls were arranged in patterns that hurt to look at, geometric designs that seemed to shift whenever Marcus tried to focus on them. The benches on the platform were too many, hundreds of them, lining the platform in neat rows like pews in an enormous church, all facing the tracks, all empty. The electronic signs showed a rapid sequence of letters and numbers that flashed too quickly to read. The fluorescent lights were too bright, painfully bright, casting sharp shadows that seemed to point in directions that didn't match the positions of the lights themselves. The train stopped and the doors opened, but this time the three-tone chime was different, slightly off-pitch, like someone had recorded it and played it back at the wrong speed. The platform was completely silent, no distant rumble of other trains, no echoing footsteps, just a terrible, pressing silence. Marcus could smell something drifting in from the platform, a scent like old concrete and standing water and something else underneath it, something organic and sweet and wrong. But his feet moved anyway, carrying him forward, and then he was standing on the platform, and the doors were closing behind him, and the train was pulling away into the tunnel, and Marcus was alone. The silence was absolute and suffocating, and Marcus realized he couldn't hear his own breathing, couldn't hear the rustle of his scrubs. At the far end of the platform, there appeared to be a stairway leading up, and Marcus started walking toward it because there was nothing else to do. As he walked, Marcus noticed that the benches weren't quite as empty as they had seemed. On every fifth bench sat figures in gray coats, hands folded in their laps and faces tilted down. And under the hoods of their coats, he couldn't see any faces, just darkness, deep, impenetrable darkness where faces should have been. Marcus walked faster, and the stairway never seemed to get any closer, always maintaining the same impossible distance no matter how long he walked. His phone still showed 3:11 a.m., the numbers frozen. Then, suddenly, the stairway was right in front of him, materializing as if it had decided to allow him to reach it. Marcus climbed the stairs two at a time, far more stairs than should have been necessary to reach street level. He finally reached the top and burst through into a circular room with no doors, no windows, no exits except the stairway he had come up and three other identical stairways heading down. In the exact center stood an old token booth, and behind the plexiglass sat a figure in a gray coat. But this one had a face that was smooth and featureless, no eyes, no nose, no mouth. Just a blank expanse that somehow conveyed it was looking directly at him. Marcus turned to the nearest stairway and started down without thinking, just needing to escape. This stairway was narrower and steeper, and after what felt like hundreds of steps, he stumbled out onto another platform. This platform was familiar, achingly familiar. This was Parkside Station, his stop. Marcus could have cried with relief. He walked toward the exit, and he was halfway to the stairs when he saw it. On the bench nearest to the exit sat someone in hospital scrubs. His exact scrubs, with the same coffee stain, the same small tear. The figure slowly raised its head, and Marcus was looking at his own face, his own terrified expression. The other Marcus stood up and started walking toward him, and Marcus backed away, back toward the edge of the platform. And he could hear a train coming, could feel the rumble, could see the lights in the tunnel. The other Marcus was getting closer, and the train wasn't slowing down, and Marcus stumbled backward off the edge of the platform. He fell, tumbling through space that shouldn't have existed, and landed hard on cold tile floor. Marcus looked up and found himself standing on a subway platform. The electronic sign above said Mercy General. The time on his phone said 2:47 a.m. There was one other person on the platform, a woman in a long gray coat standing at the far end, perfectly still, facing the wall. Marcus could hear the distant rumble of an approaching train, and his legs were already moving, carrying him forward. And he got on the third car, found his usual spot, and the doors closed with their hydraulic hiss, and the train lurched forward into the darkness.